So Matthew, how does it feel to be here in Singapore?
Well, this is the furthest that I've ever been from London, and it's pretty amazing, yeah. Yeah, really, really loving it. As soon as I got off the plane, I felt so relaxed. It was amazing.
So you've just broken into scene just a few years ago. I mean, can you share your experiences? What has been the challenges?
I think the main challenges are with young designers. There's so many platforms for you to emerge and to show your collections, but it's hard to get the big shops and the big conglomerates to take on the collection and then get it sold and get it out there, get your name out there. You've got to get a PR team, you've got to get a design team, you've got to get a studio team, a studio. There's so many hard things to do, basically.
It's a lot of elements, everything that you just mentioned right now.
Yeah, but if we can probe a little bit more, Matthew, it's the realities of being a designer is what I think the audience and the budding young designers that are plenty this evening needs to hear. In the very first email that Lana sent across to me about you was that the poor chap sleeps on the floor of his atelier. And, you know, it's not a Jean-Paul Gaultier atelier, is it?
I think every young designer, especially in kind of my situation, you start off and you have to be prepared to work, and you have to be prepared to work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You have to be prepared to go that little bit further than everyone else is going to go, because, I mean, life's not easy, life's hard. You have to work at anything you do to be the best, and to do that, you have to put every resource that you have into the collections, into the making.
And you're one person that actually does that, because James was just sharing a story with me that, well, Matthew can't actually call me because he's run out of credits from his phone. So, like, no, seriously. Yeah.
Well, for me, the collection's the most important thing. It's not the holidays, or it's not a car, or it's not. It's the story and it's the collection.
Yeah. What drives you, though? What drives you when you create?
I always describe, and it's the only way that I can relate to it from my background is kind of fashion, and how I see it. It's like a league like the Football League, and I want to get to the top of that league because it's quite competitive fashion. And I enjoy that competitive side of it.
And that's just it. You mentioned the English Premier League, I'm assuming. I was having a conversation with Didier Grumbach 2 weeks ago, and this was a revelation for me. He says to me, Frank, you're doing all these fashion platforms in Asia right now. Just do one thing. Do me a favor. I said, what is that then, Mr. Grumbach? He says, only back the winners. And I'm thinking, you know, it's a given. You know, you back the winners. I didn't quite understand what he meant until it took me 3, 4, 5 days before, I get it. See, you know, you come up to, I've got a lot of young designers coming up to me and go, I want to be a designer. Can you give me a slot on your show? I said, well, I can't, because I need to present the people that will be commercially viable. And I didn't quite understand that until recently. What does that mean to you? How is that an important component of your design, or do you let your work dictate the commercial value of what you do?
This is something that I think all designers struggle with. Do you design to sell, which a lot of design houses do, or do you design because of the concept? And to be honest with you, I still haven't fully figured it out.
Well, I don't think you have to worry about that. You're just designing, and the department stores are finding you, and so you're one of the very fortunate ones that don't actually have to decide between designing for commercial purposes or designing for you're actually designing what you want to design. And the consumers actually think it's wearable and sellable. So you're very fortunate, but you're also very talented. So you said something very interesting to me backstage, and I said, let's save it for the audience. You were making references to the Beatles and fashion and so on. Would you care to share that?
Well, I basically said I totally agree that music and fashion go hand in hand. If you look throughout history of fashion, in the 60s you had music, which was the Beatles, and they dictated all the tailoring. And then the 70s, I could just say David Bowie, and that just answers it straight away, do you know what I mean? And he's still influencing people now. I mean, the 80s was a little bit dodgy for both music and fashion, if I'm going to be honest. But then the 90s, you had Nirvana, who inspired grunge that we're seeing coming straight back around again. And bands like Joy Division started goth. Do you know what I mean? They were the start of goth, the start of kind of wallowing in your own misery, but in a really beautiful way. And so, yeah, I'm a massive fan of kind of music, and I do believe that they do go hand in hand.
So tell us, what do you listen to when you're designing?
At the moment, I'm just trying to think. On
Britney
iPlayer
Spears.
at the moment, yeah. I've just watched there's a Queen documentary that was released famously years ago, and I just rewatched it again, and just listening to Queen, the music's amazing.
Were you even born when Queen?
No, well, I think just about basically.
'Cause I remember that. I was just graduating from college when Freddie Mercury died, so I remember that era very, very well.
Yeah.
So I don't think you were even around when that happened.
I don't think so, but yeah, I do like going through, especially kind of musical periods. I mean, Joy Division, probably my favourite band of all time.
I mean, but I think art can shed some light on this. You were, after all, from the music industry.
Oh yes, well, music and fashion for me has always gone hand in hand. I mean, you need both, you know. It's like what Frank said, is if you have the designers and you have fashion as a heart and you have music as a soul, you know, everything drives together. It's like a complete 360. I have a question for you. I like to know your take on Asian fashion.
Careful now.
This is the first time that actually, no. Just trying to think.
He's being careful.
Yeah, this is the first time that I've ever been really introduced to Asian fashion. And again, we are in Asia, so it should be more Asian orientated. That should just happen. Do you know what I mean? That should be
at the risk of being, xenophobic about this. It's not about just presenting Asian fashion. I would like to think that we leave national identity out of the process. But the problem has been for us in Asia that we don't have a collective platform to present what we're presenting here. And the bias, obviously, in the wonderful cities like Paris, Milan, New York, and London has been for mostly Western designers. And what I asked myself a year ago was, or slightly more than that now, is that, is it the case that we in Asia do not have as much talent as the people in Europe? And again, I say utterly rubbish. It's utterly rubbish. If we were to challenge the average savvy person on the street to name 20 top European brands, he or she would ramble off those names very, very easily, starting Matthew Miller, and go and so on. But if I were to put the same challenge and say, give me 20 Asian names, they can't. They'll give me, let's see, Kenzo, Easy Miyake. So you have to be very, very, very involved in the fashion industry to be able to do what we are doing on stage and in this current week. So I thought that was very remissive of the industry.
Do you think this is the start of that process, though, where you are, it's going to be a long process to get that done, but if someone's going to build on that?
I think the process has started a long time ago. I think, countries like Japan and now Korea are coming up very, very strong, and of course, the many talented designers in Singapore, that process has begun. It's a matter of finding a collective, and I think we're not so good at organizing ourselves and coming together.
I mean, it's a question that I'm finding out. That obviously, my first time in Singapore, but is that something to do with are the arts pushed as much as they should be, or is fashion school pushed as much as it should be?
Well, I don't know any other country, for example, like Korea, where the government supports the industry so fully. They start from the genesis of the designer's process, even before a designer knows that he or she wants to go to design school. Out of design school, it gives them the seed money to start the atelier, it helps with the business, it helps with absolutely everything on every single level. And yet, we're lagging behind in a lot of Western countries.
But that's better than in the UK. Actually, for me to get in the school that I wanted to go to, is I actually didn't have the funds to do it, so I actually went there and lied. I actually said that I had the funds, and when I enrolled, I had to basically tell my tutor that I didn't have the money, and he said that he respected it more because I wanted it that much that I could help to find the funds.
Exactly, and that I think is the point that Mr. Grumbach was making. So, just because you think you want to be a designer, or think you can dance, or think you can sing, doesn't make you a designer, singer, or dancer. The American Idol, if anything, has taught us that. They interview or audition hundreds of thousands of people just to find the one right singer. So, and I think the fashion industry should move exactly in the same direction. But you were a huge inspiration. You were someone that I read online, and I was so humbled by the process that you took to becoming a designer. And congratulations to you, Matthew Miller.
Thank you.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you. Do you have any last words, last advice to young designers like yourself? Because there's a lot of designers in the audience as well.
I don't know if it's just about designers. I think if you're going to do anything, you just need to put everything into it. You should enjoy doing it. It should be, I enjoy what I do. It's my life. And I can't separate the two because I love it so much. And I think that shows, hopefully, through what I do. And hopefully it'll carry on that way. As I've always said, as soon as I don't enjoy it, or I don't think I can do better next season, I'll always give up because it's pointless.
And
so.
Those of you that don't have tickets or seats to Matthew Miller tonight, do what you're doing right now, steal my seat and just crowd around the back, because you really do not want to miss Matthew Miller. He's in the house. He really is in the house.
Ladies and gentlemen, Matthew Miller. Thank you so much. We look forward to your collection later on.
Brilliant.
And thank you to Frank. Thank you.
Thanks a lot.